What a statement the Philadelphia Eagles delivered in the Super Bowl last night. They completed the blueprint that the 49ers would be wise to use, especially for their defensive and offensive lines as they vie to return to the top of the heap in the NFL. Take a look at the fog down in the Central Valley. This is another 49ers update from The Rock here in the morning. Before we head skiing, I want to talk about offensive and defensive line investment and how the 49ers can model what the Philadelphia Eagles have been able to execute, not only to be in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and win the Super Bowl yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs, but also to bounce back from a really tough 2023 season. Let's, just going through the Philadelphia Eagles investment up front, because we saw that defensive line completely dominate yesterday. Where are these players coming from? Milton Williams, third-round pick, the defensive tackle, had a pair of sacks yesterday. He was a 2021 third-round pick. Jordan Davis, defensive tackle, also a key contributor for the Eagles. He was a 2022 first-round pick. Jalen Carter, the big Georgia defensive tackle, he was a 2023 first-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. Nolan Smith, also out of Georgia, the edge rusher, plays outside linebacker because Vic Fangio runs a 3-4, first-round pick out of Georgia, 2023. Jalix Hunt, 2024 third-round pick, so he's a rookie. He got to the quarterback, to Patrick Mahomes yesterday. Josh Sweat, Howie Roseman drafted him way back in 2018. Fourth rounder. Josh Sweat is going to be a free agent. He's been a good defensive lineman for the Eagles for some time. They also still have Brandon Graham on the team, long-time defensive lineman. Remember, he was the core D lineman back when Fletcher Cox was still active and playing for this football team. They have since turned the page to this younger group of defensive linemen. Howie Roseman, what a job investing in that defensive line. 49ers have to do something similar. And, the 49ers have always invested in the defensive line. That's been at the center of what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have wanted to do throughout their tenures. But I think they have to put the foot even further down on the accelerator this year. Whether or not that means trading up from number 11 to grab Mason Graham, I don't know. But I think that you watch how Philadelphia dominated. And I mentioned this, a couple times before this game on the 17th anniversary of the New York Giants and the NASCAR package defensive line beating Tom Brady and the Patriots. Front four wins titles, and it won a title yesterday. It completely flummoxed Patrick Mahomes. It's the second time that Mahomes has looked terrible in a Super Bowl against a really good front. Tampa Bay in 2020 offered a blueprint, and the parallels between that 2020 season and the Super Bowl there, and how the 49ers try to bounce back after that season, how they did bounce back after that season. The parallels, hopefully for San Francisco, extend here to 2025. I mean, just think of it. The last time the 49ers were in the Super Bowl, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. That was in the 2019 season. They followed it up with a 6-win season, a bad season in 2020. That exposed a lot of their issues up front, especially on the offensive line in 2020. Well, what happened is that in that 2020 season, the Chiefs went back to the Super Bowl after beating the 49ers, and they got their asses kicked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shaq Barrett, remember that? Kansas City can block. They had a lot of injury issues up front for the offensive line. And I think that was a message to both the Chiefs and the 49ers, and let's just say the rest of the league. You better be fortified up front, and you should also invest a lot in the defensive line, because these championships are won or lost in the trenches. So what we saw is San Francisco go on its biggest O-line investment spree ever. I was here. I was sitting looking at this view, but it was nighttime when the 49ers re-signed Trent Williams and signed Alex Mack in the same night. They went on a big-time O-line investment spree in the offseason in 2021. They refortified their defensive line as well as they could that offseason. And they proceeded to turn the 6-win 2020 season into a 3-season stretch that featured 3 NFC Championship game appearances and a Super Bowl appearance. Then they lost to the Chiefs again. And then they followed that up with another 6-win season. So we're back at square one, right? We're back where the 49ers were in that 2021 offseason when they invested in Williams, Mack, that offensive line, and also started rebuilding the defensive line. That included Javon Hargrave coming over in 2022, the former Eagle. Philadelphia completely revitalized their defensive line. They went out with the old, in with the new. That's what Howie Roseman did. And they did it through big-time draft investment in the defensive line, and that's why I think the 49ers need to turn their attention this year. I mean, I've talked about Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall, who's at the Senior Bowl. We've talked about Mason Graham, who I think is the best defensive tackle in this class. It would not surprise me to see the 49ers just go heavy Howie Roseman style on that defensive line, because you want to get it to the place where the Eagles are. You're going to have to compete with them, obviously, and also where Tampa Bay was, because Mahomes is not special in a way that he can operate unlike other quarterbacks against a dominant pass rush. He isn't. Brady wasn't special either. Every single quarterback in the history of the game has struggled against the front four that can generate pressure without blitzing. Guess what? Vic Fangio did not blitz a single time yesterday. 0 blitzes. So the front four dominated in a similar fashion as the New York Giants dominated back in the day with their NASCAR package. That's how you win. Blitzing and then good zone coverage on the back end. Not blitzing. Winning with the front four and good zone coverage on the back end. Guess who believes in that? Robert Saleh. If you want to look at another parallel, the Eagles, inept coaching when their defense was down at number 30 in the NFL in 2023, replaced their defensive coordinator with Vic Fangio, the former 49ers DC. 49ers, I think it was rather inept on the defensive side of the ball this past season. They replaced Nick Sorensen with Robert Saleh. So they're following a similar blueprint, but now they've got to get that talent in there. Especially along the front defensively. Obviously got to take care of linebacker too. The Eagles picked up Zach Bond. He had been with the New Orleans Saints. He was the highest graded linebacker in football. Warner was number 2. Zach Bond was number 1. So everything that Philadelphia was doing to set this up, well, the 49ers can follow that similar blueprint in this offseason. We knew all this stuff. We had talked about all this stuff, and then yes, it was vindicating to see it all proven out on that field. Kansas City wasn't that good this season. The Chiefs had gotten several breaks. You can argue about how intensive the breaks were for Kansas City and how they came about. We could talk about the officiating all day. All I know is they won a very suspect amount of one-score games. Well, this wasn't a one-score game yesterday because the Eagles blew them out of the water, thanks primarily to their defensive line. But we all know about Philly's offensive line. They've invested in it year after year. Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens to replace Jason Kelce on that line. I go back to what the 49ers did the last time the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl and were exposed up front. They invested heavily in their O-line. Alex Mack came over. Maybe this season's Alex Mack for the 49ers will be Drew Dahlman. Anyway, we say hello again from the Sierra Nevada. It is beautiful up here. You could look back this direction. You could see that fog over the Central Valley. I think this is a good place to officially start the 2025 offseason. 49ers can use that Eagles blueprint to get right back on the horse, just like Philadelphia did from 2023 to 2024.